You recently posted the following. Do not let the Lee Anderson comments distract us from what is the key point since October the 7th. We have a major problem, you say, with radical Islamism in Britain. Do not let the political and media class take us back to the ridiculous gaslighting that followed the murder of Sir David Amess. So let's just understand what you mean by the gaslighting that followed the murder of David Amess.
Well, what has tended to happen in the past, after the murder of Sir David Amess, after the Manchester Evening News bombings, after the comments, which I don't agree with, by the way, the comments from Lee Anderson over the last 24 hours, is that our national conversation basically focuses on everything and anything but the real issue. We're told that we should be nice to one another. We're told that it's about social media. We're told that it's about an irresponsible MP who Rishi Sunak needs to suspend. We're told that MPs are facing a growing security threat, but we're not told what that threat is. So let's be clear. What all of these things have in common is that they are all pointing to the growing threat within British society from an extreme radical Islamism. That's not to say we have a problem with British Muslims. It is to say that within the British Muslim community, as we know from the Shawcross Review, from polling of British Muslims, from the terrorist attacks that we've experienced over the last 20 years, that we have a serious problem. And by gaslighting, what I'm saying is after these attacks, after these events, after these interventions, what our media and political class tend to say is that, well, this is not actually to do with that issue. They fall over themselves to find any other potential explanation. It's about student activists on the radical left. It's about social media and the perils of Twitter and X. But actually, no, it's about radical Islamism. Every other European country is waking up to discuss this. Germany's talking about it. France is talking about it. Sweden's talking about it. Our political class seem incapable of saying the reason Sir David Amess was murdered, the reason our MPs feel intimidated, and the reason our democracy is being attacked in this way is because of a virulent radical Islamism.
By pure coincidence, because I didn't know you were going to make this point, I didn't even know we were going to discuss this point, I was reading a moment ago, this morning's press. And it's not just the political class, it is also that the media doesn't want to mention this in many cases. For example, there is a story today that members of Parliament, 3 of them, have been granted protection. They've got, drivers and they've got security teams because they're being intimidated. But no indication of who is intimidating them.
No. We've also had national commentators in prominent newspapers say that actually the source of this intimidation is sort of student activists on the left of politics, a bit like it was in the 1960s. So everybody is doing whatever they can to basically avoid the big fat elephant in the room, and that is radical Islamism, which is being emboldened by the radical left because it is obsessed with identity politics. It gives Islamists a free pass, and it is basically, I think, pointing to our broken model of multiculturalism. So what do you do, Michael? What would a different debate look like? Right, number one, we take the Shawcross Review seriously and we say the dominant security threat to our society is from radical Islamism. We need to deal with that. Number two, we have to dramatically lower migration because you cannot have successful integration while running mass migration. It's never worked before. Number three, we then, under controlled migration, need a serious policy that is going to encourage people to integrate into our ways of life and to share our values. The Danes are doing this. They're completely overhauling their education system. The Swedes are doing this. They're completely overhauling their housing and their approach to crime. The French have just decided they're going to deport foreign nationals who glorify Islamist terrorism. Michael, we're behind the curve. We need to draw a line in the sand. We should stop tolerating people who do not tolerate our way of life.
And just to draw this to a conclusion, if we are concerned about divisions in society, as we are, if you and I may feel concerned about the election of George Galloway, if that happens, can we also agree that the comments made by Lee Anderson are profoundly unhelpful if we're trying to bring people together?
Absolutely, and it's very unfortunate because what individuals like Lee Anderson and other people have in common, notably after October the 7th, is they play into the hands of people who don't actually want to talk about these issues. So I don't agree with Lee Anderson's comments, but I do think radical Islamism is the dominant threat to our way of life.
I am obliged to give you the full list of candidates standing in the Rochdale by-election on Thursday. Azhar Ali, who appears on the ballot as the Labour candidate, Mark Coleman, Independent, Simon Danchuk, Reform UK, Ian Donaldson, Liberal Democrat, Paul Ellison, Conservative, George Galloway, Workers' Party of Britain, Michael Howarth, Independent, William Howarth, Independent, Guy Otten, Green Party, Ravin Rodent Sobotna, Official Monster Raving, Looney Party, and David Tully, Independent. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you, Michael.
Goodwin. Thank you very much.